and sorting out some other bits and bobs. OBS crashed about 2 minutes before we started. So OBS is the software I use to do the streaming, and it got a little bit upset, so it fell over. So yeah, so that is where we're up to. I'm just sliding in. So the plan today is to basically go through some of the games that I played as a kid, or very, very near approximations of them, but a bit more on that in a tick, and talk about how they helped me, to become the autistic person I am today, and how they helped me learn to thrive, build social skills, build physical skills in my hands and stuff like that. So the idea here is to kind of talk about how games can be useful and valuable, and how they can help us to do new things, expand our skills, and have fun, and things like that. So hopefully that all makes a bit of sense. I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat room to check that audio is all okay, because it's taken a little bit of prodding around to make that work. But yeah, that's where we're going to start. Okie dokie. So the first game that we're going to start today with is Colin McRae Rally. Now, I do own Colin McRae Rally. So for the emulation side here, my original plan was to play my actual PlayStation. I have a PlayStation 1 with Colin McRae Rally and Red Alert and all my other games. But I was looking at how I can capture it whilst also being able to see it without lots of latency. That turned out to be a bit of a rabbit hole. That took a while to kind of research on how to do, and it basically ended up with it's better to just emulate them. Because I own them, I have copies of them, and I'm doing an educational thing, it would be fairly legal as well. So I started setting up the emulation, and for whatever reason I can't get the Colin McRae Rally emulator to work on my PC. I've emulated it many times on my Mac using whatever the Mac emulation thing is called. The name will come back to me in a minute. But I haven't been able to get it to work on the PC. So I need to fiddle with that one a little bit more. However, luckily for me, a few years ago, Codemasters re-released something that's a little bit like the original Colin McRae. And that is available on Steam, and I've had a license to that for ages. So we're going to go play that, and we're going to, as we play it, talk about how I played it as a kid and what it helped me with. So that is our first thing for today. So let's crack on. Okay, so in theory, you should now be able to hear me and hear a little bit of audio for the game. And yeah, this is the Colin McRae Rally kind of reuse, kind of modern equivalent sort of thing. One moment, just gonna grab a drink. So I had this on the PlayStation 1, or do you say I have this on the PlayStation 1. And it was a game that I really, really enjoyed as a kid. Oh, that's interesting. My Xbox controller isn't working. Ha! This was working 10 minutes ago. No, it would appear that that's not happy. Okay, that is fun. Right, that is... I think I know why it's not happy. I think it's because RetroArch has stolen the input. So let's reboot that game and see if that works. Gotta love emulation and retro stuff. Well, not even onto the retro emulation stuff yet. This is still me trying to get the usual things to work. Okay, so hopefully, there you go. This time it got my input. Fantastic. So why did I play this as a kid? So there's a few reasons I used to play Command and Conquer. It's not Command and Conquer. Colin McRae Rally. Which is I really like driving games, and when I was a kid I had a lot of trouble with coordination and kind of hand movement, and kind of still do, and was diagnosed as dyspraxic. And the where am I going? I don't want a championship, I want a single race. Let's do a single rally. I'm aiming to spend about 15 to 20 minutes playing each of the games. Yep. So I used to play this as a kid, and at one stage, my GP, Dr. Edmondson, back then, actually recommended to my parents that I should play video games to help build my hand control and coordination and stuff. And that's one of the ways I ended up with Colin McRae Rally. It's one of the games that I played as a kid to try and help build those skills and whatnot. And it also had a social thing, because other people in school played it, so it was something that I could talk to kids at school about, which was quite good. When I was at the BBC and we were talking about different games, we used to talk about how games are a social currency. Right, let's go. So I'm going to try and talk about what I learned from this game while also playing it, which could be fun. So I'm still not great at my left and right, but the idea of the severity of corners and kind of going around corners at different speeds, this is the game I learnt it in. The idea of how to control a car. This was pretty much my first driving game. And I used to play the little... the original game has these tutorial sections. And I used to play those tutorial sections all the time. And it was kind of how I learned a lot of the hand controls needed to play games. Oh dear. It's also how I learned how to run over trees with a car. So, you know, if in the future I need to knock down some trees, I might just drive a car into them, because, you know, that's how I learned to do it in video games. I'm sure that's how that works. So it helped me learn my left and right a little bit. It helped me learn the basics of car control. And it helped me develop my coordination in a way that was much more engaging and fun than trying to just do little coordination challenges or puzzles and stuff. So that's one of the reasons I used to play Colin McRae Rally. This modern remake, it's not that bad. It's very basic, but it is as closest to the original as I can find without emulating the original. I like it. I also like the fact that the handbrake makes a creaking noise. With a lot of these games, I used to play things in very repetitive ways. I used to get used to something I knew well and then repeat it over and over and over. So the first level of Rally New Zealand that goes through the quarry and stuff in the original game, I played that so many times as a kid, like hundreds of times. I wouldn't be surprised if I played it more than 1,000 times. I know that track like I was supposed to say like the back of my hand, but I probably know it better than the back of my hand. And I always used to be trying to beat my time on it. It was a really good game, really good fun. I quite like this game. This is a nice copy of it. What's happening in the chat room? I'm gonna try and read the chat room when I'm not driving, basically. Otherwise I'm gonna crash. Oh, crikey, that's a big jump. Gosh, in real life the car would not be happy with that. Or it'd be happy with it if you set the suspension up for it, but it wouldn't be happy with a lot of other stuff. I used to play this with fully digital controls as well, so accelerator and brake, without any of the analog triggers or analog steering. So it was a bit, I don't know, it took me a long time to get used to analog controls, which is where it's not like full power or full brake. You can kind of do a little bit of brake or a little bit of accelerator and a little bit of steering. It took me ages to learn how to do that, and it was analog mode in Colin McRae Rally, I think, and a little bit of analog mode in Gran Turismo, which is where I first learned to do that. I like that the car gets dirty. The original Colin McRae Rally did that. You'd drive it through this muddy section, and the car would get covered in mud. And as a kid, I used to find that really impressive. And the working brake lights and the working damage. That was always good fun. Sometimes, rather than try and race the race, I'd just go and try and destroy the car as spectacularly as I possibly could. Drive it off the biggest cliffs I could find. Go on a bit of a destruction derby. For people in the chat, if you've played Colin McRae Rally, what sort of ways did you play it? Did you play it to try and beat the game and win the races, or did you go for destruction derbies? Oh, let's see what's happening in the chat. Let me just press the chat button. Okay, so what have we got? Yep, you can all hear me. Fantastic. Oh, WRC games. Isaac saying they had Xbox and PlayStation rivalry. That's cool. I'm quite impressed. Apparently I beat Colin McRae by a minute and 8 seconds on this go. You know, that's very good. He was pretty good at this whole driving malarkey. Careful about trees exploding or being super strong. Mizzy says his first driving game was Formula 1 1998. That's all very cool. Trees and fence posts and hitting things, all the muddy holes. Yeah. Isaac says his first driving game was The Simpsons Hit and Run. But he's not sure if that counts. And then he's done PlayStation portable game Gran Turismo, and then Forza on the Xbox. I think Hit and Run should count. It's a driving game. It's teaching you driving mechanics, which is all good fun. And yeah, Mad Techie saying that destroying the car was the point of Colin McRae. I thought that's pretty much how I played it at first, until one day I noticed that there was like a system where I was being timed, and it was actually erased. I think I actually played Colin McRae Rally before I understood the concept of rally cars. It was that early in my life. And then Mizzy saying he's not played many driving games. That's okay. We've got a few different games today. They're not all driving games. So I'm going to proceed and do the second stage of this rally. Let's go. I'm just browsing the menu rather than continuing to the next race. Bop, 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 bop. Oh crap, oh, that started quick. So there's a comment there from Isaac about the original... hey! I was trying to think and talk at the same time and ended up doing neither. I'm actually going to have a bit of a race with the computer this time. Isaac was saying that the first Forza Horizons feels like a really small map compared to the latest games. I never played the original, but I did play Horizon 2 that's based in France. And I know what you mean about it feeling really small. I went back and replayed some of it not so long ago. And it feels really small, and like the drives between all of the different activities are really short. You can drive like a whole lap of the map in not a lot of time at all. Versus for the latest Forza Horizons in Mexico, it's like half an hour to an hour to go all the way around the map. It's massive. Right? That is the wrong way. Nope, that was the wrong way. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Zooms. Woo. Okay. If anybody asked, that number plate was wonky like that when I got the car. Definitely didn't crash into anything to make a wonky number plate. Whee! Through a narrow gate. There we go. Hey. The irony being, one of the reasons I found the original Colin McRae really good is because I played it so often. I got to know it really well, and I got to kind of build my confidence with it. It was one of the first times I was doing a physical thing with my hands and arms and body that didn't go wrong immediately. Like, this is back when I couldn't catch balls. Like, I remember I used to go into the playground in the morning with one of the support people, and they used to throw these like soft triangular beanbags at me to try and catch, and I was basically terrible at catching them. Let's repair some things. Yeah, repair that. So I was really terrible at catching at the time. I used to remember they used to just bounce off my face. So this was one of the first times I experienced success with movement, with physical stuff. And it was a good sense. It was a good feeling of being able to achieve things. Another thing is I went a really long way without understanding the concept of memory cards. So I never used to save games. I didn't realise that I could like save a game and come back to it. So occasionally the PlayStation would just be left on all night. Or I'd replay the same, opening part of a game over and over and over and over again. Metal Gear Solid is a good example of that. I used to play the first bit of Metal Gear Solid like dozens of times because I didn't realise I could save it. Oopsie. I can see messages on the chat and I will read them in a moment. I probably need to turn my headphones down as that horn going beep 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 is slightly breaking my brain. In fact, I will turn my headphones down because that horn going beep 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 is real loud. Right, let's resume that. Resume? There we go. Whee! I think there's a good thing in here. I think when I think about Colin McRae Rally, it was probably one of my first times ever experiencing what I'd now call a monotropic flow state or a tunnel, where you're totally engaged in the thing you're doing with all of your focus keeping the car on the road and the rest of the world kind of fades away. I get them now when I'm coding and making things and doing creative things. I kind of build my life around tunnels. I literally build my life around tunnels. So it's kind of funny that this game was probably the first place where I experienced tunnels. Fall off the bridge. How does folks in the audience, do you ever experience tunnels? Kind of long, flowy attention tunnels where you're absorbed into a thing and the rest of the world just kind of fades away. I get it when I'm mountain biking as well, when I'm going down a really complicated technical mountain biking thing. The rest of the world disappears while I'm kind of totally absorbed in the thing I'm doing.
And 3 right opens.
Whee.
30 long, 5 left tightens. Into turn, 4 left.
I'm just going to make a little tweak to an OBS thing where I have the OBS preview and the game running next to each other on my browser, and I've just on my screen, and I've just realised that I'm actually trying to drive the wrong game right now, which probably isn't helping.
4 right.
There we go. Now I've put the game in the middle of my screen. 3 left.
Into 5 right over crest.
I'll have a glance at the chat in a moment when I get to the end of this stage.
Into 6 crest and 6 right. Into crest.
Oh, blimey. I have a bit of a cold at the moment. It's not COVID. I've tested multiple times. But that's a bit of a sneeze. Sorry about that. Oh no. Well, that's lucky. That picture of the grass stopped me from crashing. That's very handy.
3 right.
Uh-oh. That rear window's having a smashing time.
30 jump maybe. 30 jump maybe. And long 4 left tightens. Into 4 right.
My favourite car in the original game was the blue little Puma. I love that thing. That was my favourite car by far. Or the little Seat Ibiza. I used to play that a lot as well. And I can also still remember the cheat code shoeboxes, which is what you typed into the name panel in order to unlock all of the cars. It was literally what taught me how to spell the word shoebox. I can remember buying actual print magazines in order to get cheat codes, because we didn't have the internet yet, so you couldn't just look for them online.
5 right. Into crest and 5 left. Into 3 right.
Whoa.
54 left over crest. And 6 crest.
I like the broken rear window where you can see inside the car. I don't think the original game had that. Not that I can remember.
Okay.
There we go. Right. Whoops. Whoops, pause that. Okay, so let's have a look at the chat. So, Y corner when you can crash your way around the circuit. I agree, Isaac. That's totally the way to do it. And then we've got... What else have we got? Yeah, not being able to catch stuff sucks. I'm still quite bad at that. Yep, Isaac. Catching things is still not exactly the best thing for me. And that was definitely a thing that I experienced. That I'm still not great at throwing and catching things and things like that. I can do it a bit. I can do it more than I used to. And games and stuff certainly helped me develop that coordination. That's something I'm still not brilliant at. And Mizzy's making a point there, saying that his parents read a book when he was a kid, or he came across a book when he was a kid aimed at parents saying that autistic kids shouldn't be allowed to game because it's inevitably going to become an addiction. That's not true. Like, gaming can be really good. There's people like Spectrum Gaming and Playability and folks like that who have lots of amazing resources to help parents navigate gaming. In fact, actually, I was chatting to Andy recently at the Family Gaming Database. That's an astonishing resource for finding good games for kids of all ages and different abilities, and then finding ways to integrate gaming into kids' lives in really productive, healthy ways. So yeah, I think we can now refute the idea that gaming causes addiction in autistic people. So then in chat, there's some questions about tunnels. So Isaac saying his parents thought that the games he was playing was the reason he was getting bullied rather than the bullies. Yeah, that's not brilliant. His parents thought that his bad school stuff was due to gaming rather than being due to the bullies. Yeah, that makes sense as well. And then yeah, so it's good. And then the next thing in the chat is around tunnels. So tunnels being cool. And Mad Techie saying finding more ways to get into them. Yeah, it took me a while. Like, it's taken me a few years to kind of learn what things will help me get into a focus tunnel and what won't. Actually, let's think about that thread whilst I am driving. This should be entertaining. So, thinking about tunnels while I'm driving. So, for me, getting in and out of tunnels requires the right environment. I need to feel safe, I need to have energy, I need to have good seating and not be in pain. Which, interestingly, is one of the things. I was with the neurologist yesterday, and their theory is that the nerve damage isn't in my spinal cord, not directly. It's in some nerves lower down. But the pain from that causes a series of spasms, and then those spasms are pinching the spinal cord nerves, and that's why I'm kind of having trouble walking. So I've been on some meds for a while to try and stop the cycle of spasms, and they are helping me walk. So they're going to put me on more of those meds, which is good. But in the short term, it's going to make me pretty wobbly and probably a bit more brain foggy, which is bad. But hopefully in the long term, it will help with my walking. And then they're also going to go and do some more investigations to try and work out why I'm in so much pain. So checking out tailbone nerves and things like that. So that's quite encouraging, because previously we were told it was a spinal cord injury called cauda-equina syndrome, which doesn't have a cure or any treatment. So at least we're now onto a thing where we can explore some cures and potentially find some treatments. But if I'm in a lot of pain, I can't tunnel, I can't get into those focus states. So yeah, set up spoons and environment and seating are kind of the main things for me. The other thing I tend to find is once I'm confident getting in and out of tunnels, and I know that I can go and tunnel on some code or tunnel on writing presentation slides or something, and I know that I can do that by going to the cafe, or for things like presentations, I get into the best tunnels for those the day before. It kind of gives me the confidence to exit tunnels and come in and out of things without getting stuck in them as often. So that's kind of like another tunnelling thing, which is once you're confident getting in and out of tunnels, a lot of things get much easier because you have that confidence to know that you'll be able to do things, rather than the kind of existential dread that I've had in the past when I've just been bouncing around, unable to get my brain to do anything. In that very kind of ADHD spiral of doom sort of way. I'm quite impressed that I can monologue about tunnels whilst driving Colin McRae Rally. That's okay. I'm quite proud of being able to do that. That's a bit of a surprise. I'll have another glance at the chat in a moment when I get to the end of it. So once I get to the end of this rally, or in the next 3 minutes or so, we'll then move on to our second game, which isn't about tunnels. It's about the power of repetition, which we'll come on to in a bit. Oh, I will also check the chat again in a moment. In fact, I'll check the chat now. So, chatting a little bit about tunnels, and Isaac saying that he had lots of gaming tunnels when he was a kid, and it would upset his family that it was hidden in his room gaming. Yeah, that's quite a common thing. And then some things from Mizzy about trouble getting into and out of tunnels, and you don't really get into them anymore. Kind of a mixture of being taught habits to try and break them and not knowing when they're happening. I was chatting to somebody else recently who had that exact thing. They had kind of been trained to not have tunnels and to just kind of grind through everything. And we ended up doing some exercises and some work together to try and find ways to help them naturally tunnel. And for them, part of it was about going to a new place. So they found that in their environment that they were in, they didn't really feel safe enough to tunnel. So what they did is they booked a hotel room, and they didn't really have any plans, and they just went to the hotel room and gave them an afternoon in a new environment to do anything they wanted, without judging themselves or without trying to be productive, if that makes any sense. And they ended up lying on the bed staring at the ceiling and thinking about things for a while. And then they got kind of, as they put it, they got distracted by the menu. They, oh my god, I'm crashing. Ah. Well, okay, at least I'm still the right way up. Wheels down, keep the black side down, that's the idea. Rubber side on the road. So they went to a hotel room, and they got bored for a while. So much so that they ended up looking at the menu, which led to them thinking about some food stuff, which led to a really nice kind of distracted tunnel. Their first kind of tunnel when they recognised they were in a tunnel, when they were researching food stuff, because there was an ingredient or a type of food mentioned in the menu. They didn't know what it was, and for them it was their first time being able to recognise that they were in a tunnel, rather than maybe possibly the first time they're in a tunnel. And that's kind of half the trick, which is if you can recognise that you're in the tunnel, that kind of helps get you going. I have no idea what I'm doing with the repair, so I'm just pressing buttons until it Okay, I take it that's how much I've got. Go. Okay, so this is 5th stage. This will be the last stage I do before I swap to the next game. Yeah, Isaac saying he can remember the sheet of cheats for GTA San Andreas in the box. That's interesting. I don't think I ever brought a game with cheats in the box. I definitely had some games where there was like an advert in the box for like a phone line, where if you phoned the phone line, they would tell you the cheats over the phone line, but you had to pay like 80p a minute. Is that still a thing? I don't think that's a thing anymore. I think the internet made that go away. And it's kind of like, a little bit like, you know, microtransactions, right? If you want to cheat with this game or get an advantage, phone this phone line, this hotline, and we'll charge you money in order to tell you the cheats over the phone. Kind of funny how the internet's kind of broken lots of different industries that way. We might also be experiencing a similar thing with AI, by the way. In the same way that the internet and that availability of information changed the entire economy and has changed so much of society, we may see a similar thing with AI, where the nature of work and what it needs to be productive and creative will probably change with the advent of the tools. So, yeah, we might be living through another bit of an industrial revolution change sort of thing with that, which is kind of interesting. Whee! Oh. Isaac saying that I'm talking about lots of tunnels, but he hasn't seen any tunnels on the track. That's a good point. In fact, I don't think there are any tunnels in this version of this game. I don't think I've ever seen any tunnels. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a limitation of the camera system. Oh, I used to love the swapping between different textures and different levels of grip. That was kind of one of the things that this game taught me, was that different levels of grip depending on what you're driving on. I didn't really understand that as a kid until I started playing games. Ah! Stay on the road. Ah, we didn't need that tree. I like this version of the game because it's fairly wide. When I play some of the newer ones like Dirt Rally and Dirt Rally 2, the tracks are way narrower and much tighter, which makes it much harder. Still good fun, but it is quite hard. So yeah, at the end of this stage, I think we'll move on to the next game, which was one of the later games that I played on my PlayStation, which was Command & Conquer Red Alert. So we'll load that up in an emulator in a moment. And just to repeat something I said earlier, I own a PlayStation. It's in a box, kind of over there. You can't see me pointing. And I also own copies of all the games, these two games at least. The Command & Conquer Red Alert game is in a box over there. So I think I'm comfortable emulating it and fitting within all the fair use stuff, etc. Whoosh! Wow, this is a fast bit. Oops. Okay, I didn't brake soon enough for that one. My car doesn't sound very healthy. I'm hoping that the end of stage 5 is the end of the rally, partly because my car seems to be very broken, and then that means that we've got a nice, dropping off point to go and swap to the other game. Whoops. Whoops. I like that tree is clearly a 2D sprite that just rotates so it stays pointing at the driver. That's a trick we used in VR stuff as well. Not quite 2D sprites, but when I did a BBC research project where I built a VR environment of a school with a library, like a school library with a garden. We're not going to do this. We're now going to quit out of this. So I played this game, where I built this school library. So whilst I'm nattering about that, I will check chat and I will open up the next game. And I'll move you lot to the emulator window. So yeah, I built this model of a school library and it had a garden. and the garden of the school library had a bunch of trees in it, and we didn't have enough performance.
Soviet disk detected.
Hello.
Play the Allied missions. Please insert the Allied disk.
We'll skip the intro because it's long and it's not relevant because we're going to play skirmish mode anyway.
Stop playing with that thing.
There we go. And I'll pause that once it is loaded. Okay. So yeah. So brain. What was I talking about? I forgot already. Something. Can't remember what I was talking about. Something Colin McRae related, I think. Can't remember. Oh well, I'll go talking about Red Alert now. Actually, before I do that, let's check the chat room. So, Isaac talking about solo travel and getting away from things, and then also one of his autistic tunnels being around trains. So going out and riding trains is a good thing. Mizzy talking about he's not really sure if cheats are a thing anymore, and there are things like command prompts. Yeah, there's things like command modes, and I do that with a lot of the Steam-based games that I've played, like Portal, when you can go and play with the command line and do different things. Yeah, I think cheats are still out there a little bit, but not so much. I'm not. I haven't seen the same sort of Easter eggs. So one of the cheats in Colin McRae Rally was I think the cheat was Jello, and it would turn the car into like a big green block of Jello rather than a normal car. That was good fun. We don't really see that sort of whimsy in games so much anymore. So Mad Techie offering to maybe lend me a video converter. See if it can make me see if I can play some of these games first, directly off of the things, which would be good. This game is Tim Curry, yeah. So Command and Conquer is Tim Curry's voice. Yes, I'm going to the one place uncorrupted by capitalism. Space is absolutely a quote. So Isaac is just tuning into that one, which is amazing. So we're going to play some Command and Conquer Red Alert. Now, as a kid, this is emulated now. So this is the same game as I was playing it. So as a kid, I basically never played the game as a game. I never played any of the campaigns. The only thing I did was I ran skirmishes. But even then, I only ran one skirmish, which was this map. I used to always put it to tech level 10. Always start with 10,000 credits. Always... I accidentally started the menu because I got the wrong button. Oh, dear. Oh, we need to exit out of this because I think I've accidentally enabled it to have 3 enemies, which is way too many for a 20-minute play. So... he's going to go battle control terminated. Go on, say it.
Battle control terminated.
Battle control terminated. Awesome. Also, let me know how you're doing with the volume and stuff. So then I used to set the AI teams to 1 with bases and ores regrows and no shroud regrowing. And yeah, so I used to do this all the time. And I used to play this exactly the same way, over and over and over again. And then I'd also always play the same strategy. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to play this skirmish map, and I'll show you the strategy that probably 11-year-old Jamie developed in order to beat this game. And as an aside, I always played this game with cheats, which my brain kind of learned almost like music, where like I could tap them out really, really quickly. So I'm going to go and pull up my notes from earlier about what those cheats were. So the first thing I'm going to do is reveal the map, so we know where we are and we know where the baddie is. And then I'm going to just basically spawn the credits thing. So we got, every time I want money, I'll just create more money. I'm also just quickly having a drink and checking the chat and stuff like that. So Mizzy saying that he used to find that RTS is getting really overwhelming. I had that as well, which is kind of why I used to just play the same level over and over again with lots of cheat codes. In a way, the cheat codes were like changing the difficulty for me. They helped me, they put it into a mode where I had less barriers and more enjoyment. And weirdly enough, this game is something that I played through some of the toughest moments of my life, without going into details. I was a child at home and then I went into foster care. And this was a game I used to play when I was upset. I'd run through the same skirmish 6 or 7 times. I used to enjoy the repetition of it. It was a good way to be absorbed in a thing and not really thinking about what was happening. One moment, just going to have a drink because I'm starting to sound a bit dry. The graphics of the game also meant it was one of the few games that I could play without my glasses on, which was good, because when I used to have meltdowns and stuff, I'd quite often throw my glasses in silly places, and then of course I wouldn't be able to do things because I haven't got my glasses on. So, alright, let's get this moved across and expanded. And now, how do I bring up the menu on this version of the game? Because I want the... Oh, now I'm trying to remember the controls. How do I make that solid? Slow that down a little bit as well. How do I bring up that menu on the side? Yeah, I'm trying to remember now how I bring up that menu on the side. So I've got my D-pad there, and I've got my control buttons there. There we go, it was that button. The first one that I want is to reveal map, which is square, triangle, circle, X, triangle, square. So square, triangle, circle, X, triangle, square. No, that didn't work. Square, square, triangle, circle, X, triangle, square. Okay, that didn't seem to work. Now this one, square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle, to get 1,000 credits. That one I do remember. But that's not working either. Square, square, circle, circle. Square, square, circle, triangle, circle. Okay, the cheats aren't working for some reason. Maybe... Oh, I think it might be because I'm using the wrong button to type them in. Let's see. So, that. No, that's not working either. Any suggestions, chat room, for how the cheats are supposed to go in? I'm using an Xbox controller rather than the original controller. So, maybe that is the problem, or I am... getting something else written. Let's see, so square, circle, hi cities and sounds, circle, X, triangle, circle. Oh, that's weird. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle is what I want. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. Nope, that's not working. I might actually have to play this without cheats. In which case I might actually lose very quickly. I'm going to pause that and quickly Google how to make the cheats work. So for this game, when I was a kid, I basically couldn't complete it unless I was using the cheats. And the so I'm currently just Googling the cheats. So yeah, as a kid, I couldn't really complete it without the game. Without the cheats, and I won't get the same enjoyment out of it, frankly, if I turn the cheats off, because that's part of the nostalgia, right? It's part of what I enjoyed about it. I can remember being able to tap all the cheats in really, really quickly. I don't want retaliation cheat codes. I want cheat codes for Red Alert, the original. Cheat codes for skirmishes. Skirmish cheat codes. It's kind of hard to do a stream where I'm just kind of... I need to try and keep something for you to listen to and kind of be chatting to you while I Google a thing. TNC Red Alert PS1 cheat codes. I thought I had them earlier. They looked familiar. Okay, so let's try. That's retaliation. I just want Red Alert 1 cheat codes. Not retaliation, please. No, it's taking me back to the same blog post that I was already looking at. Oh, I need to press the cancel button on each one. Click on the Teams menu with a cancel. The Teams menu with a cancel button. Circle by default. What? On an Xbox controller, which one is circle? On a PlayStation controller, which one is circle? PlayStation controller. PlayStation 1 controller. So circle is the cancel button, which will be B on my controller, I think. So let's double check that and make sure. Actually, I should probably make sure that I don't have any mapping on my controller and that it's actually getting the right things. Let's try that. Return to mission. So we want that one, and then we want to use the cancel button. Now move the cursor over the following icons on the menu and press the cancel button on each. So let's try reveal map. So that was square, triangle, circle, X, triangle, square. Square, triangle, circle, X, triangle, square. Ah, there we go, it worked. Now the map is being revealed. Well, hey! Okay, so I was probably pressing the wrong button. Right, let's just have a look and see what is on the chat. Isaac asking if the cheats have gone AWOL. Well, they're working now, thankfully. Not quite right, but a bodge. Some seems okay. And yeah, I think Mizzy, I think I'm on the same page that you'd found as well. Right, let's try getting this going. So let's try some 1,000 credits. So square, square, circle, X, triangle, square. Well, that still didn't work. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. Aha! There we go. So that was that one, that one. Gosh, I can remember as a kid I had this as like a rhythm. So that. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. It's not working all the time. So that's square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. Oh, it worked once, then it didn't work again. I wonder what I did wrong. Square, square, circle, X, triangle, circle. I'm not quite sure what I did because I got it to work once and then it didn't work a second time. Also, I've noticed that the background sound has disappeared. I should start building my base, shouldn't I? Otherwise, I'm gonna get attacked by things. Let's start building things. So first, gonna want a power station. For some reason, the game music has disappeared. So let's turn that up and see if it comes back. There we go.
Unable to comply. Building in progress.
Unable to comply. Building in progress.
Construction complete.
Sweet. So I always used to put these somewhere deep inside the base because then, when I built all my Tesla coils and things like that,
Building.
no, I don't want that one. I want a barracks. It should have given me a barracks by
On
now.
hold. Building. On hold.
Cancel. Why isn't it giving me a barracks to build? There we go.
Building.
Barracks.
Construction complete.
Circle. There you go. Square, square. Square, square, circle, triangle, circle. And this one I'd put somewhere near the front so that my troops would be right near the front when we got attacked. And then I would start by spamming lots and lots of rocket troops.
Unable to comply. Building in progress.
There you go. Get some money up. Right. So now let's go for a little bit of an explore. So because I've revealed the map, I know where the bad guys are, which is kind of helpful. My strategy for this map was always to build up a bit of a base, build lots and lots and lots of mammoth tanks, load them onto boats, and then take the boats around the outside, and then use the mammoth tanks coming off the boats to flank the enemy. so they would be fighting on both sides. So we now want a war factory, I think. Do I want a war factory? What was the upgrade for a war factory? So I've done power, I've done that. I needed an ore refinery, that's it, so that I have money coming in. So anybody on the chat? Has anybody on the chat done much of Command and Conquer? I'd be curious about that. Oh. Right, so I think now that I've got this working, I'm going to just speed the game up a bit so that things build at normal speed. And if the enemy start trying to kill me too much, then I can use the cheat code to get a nuke and maybe do it that way, so I can defend myself if I'm running a little bit slow. Yeah, it's why I used to unlock the map straight away so that I can see things coming.
Unit ready.
Oh, look at that old rhythm. Dot dot. Oh, got it wrong because I was thinking about it. Da 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 da. So let's put this somewhere sensible.
Construction option.
There we go. And that, and then a war factory. This is where we start building tanks. The other thing that it took me years to realise is if you make multiple things, they build faster. So if you have 3 or 4 war factories, they build things faster than a single war factory. And by knowing that, I used to be able to build more things more quickly. Okay, so it looks like there's an attack inbound. So let's move some people into defensive positions. Because I have unlimited money, I'll also tend to take my war things. And oh gosh, that's a very large attack. Very large attack that is coming. Oh, hopefully this should be okay. I didn't spend too long getting distracted making things, trying to get the cheats working. So I have my war factory. So a couple of those, and I think we're going to have another war factory as well, so we can build units more quickly. So I'm just looking at the chat now. You think your cousin gave you a hand-me-down copy? That's very cool. You don't have any strong memories. Oh dear, that's a lot of things running around my base while I was looking at the chat. Dudes, like, if you could just sort that out, please. Can you please? Oh, this is not looking good for me, is it? This is really not looking good for me. Cheats and all. Right, what's the nuke cheat? Circle, X, circle, triangle, square. So I build another one of those. Build another one of those. Build another one of those. What have I got in here that might be able to defend me? Let's have a flame tower. That's good. Let's burn down. That's not good. I think I might actually lose this. I might actually lose this because I spent so long building the tanks at the start, which is kind of funny. I spent so long waiting for cheats that I actually ended up making the game, hard to win. Although I'm slowly getting there. I just need these tanks to actually move and do something. Dudes, there's a thing over there. If you could, let's also have one of those. Build another one of those. And do that. There. There's a guy shooting at me. Let's sort that out. Cool. So I haven't failed the game yet. I've still got something I can do. Go on, keep doing that. I didn't mean to build another one of those, but it'll do.
Unit ready. On hold.
Keep going with that. And then in a minute I'll do the cheat for lots of money a few times so that we can get the engineer because they blow things up real good.
Unit ready.
Right, so we survived it. We survived the initial attack. Phew, that was good. Oh, exciting start. So the next thing in the tech tree, I think, is the tech centre. No, not that one. So I think the next one was a service depot and then a radar, and then that would get us access to the mammoth tanks. Grab that. And, actually, I think we actually need to get another ore truck because ours got blown up. In fact, our entire ore facility looks like it got blown up. So I'll just do some cheat to get some more money in. Oh, look at the hands on that. Oh yeah, repeating patterns over and over again. How very jaded.
Unit ready.
Those. Fantastic. And there we go. So I'll set him to work, collecting some more ore.
Construction complete.
And I've got my tanks all over the place. Put that out somewhere sensible.
Construction off.
And then give myself a bigger power plant because I'm running out of power. And I should also get out my repair thing as well. So let's get the repair tool and start repairing these buildings that were damaged. Repair everything that was damaged. And now start building some more tanks.
Training. Construction complete.
So just having a look through, seeing what the comments are in the chat. Tiberian Sun was the one you played the most. I think this is the one I played the most, just the Command & Conquer on the PlayStation 1. Because I think for a long time, well, I know that for a long time my PlayStation 1 was the only console I had kind of exclusive access to. And there was a PC at one of the foster homes I was at. And funnily enough, I used to be sat there building websites and making things, but they'd treat it the same as if I was gaming. So they'd be like, oh, you're playing on the computer. And I'm like, no, I'm kind of making things rather than playing games. And then I'd get booted off the computer so that other people could play games. And I used to feel that was a bit unfair because I was doing useful things rather than gaming. So also the chat's in there. Sometimes with old games, it's not like riding a bike. Yep, you kind of have to relearn. And Mizzy saying that last time he rode a bike, he managed to fall off. And Isaac's going to go and get a trike at Centre Parks. We do that. In fact, up on my website, Spaced Out and Smiling, in the reviews section, there's a review of the TR1, which is the trike that they have at Centre Parks. And when I had my injury a couple of years ago, we brought the fixed pedal version of it, a fixed pedal TR1, fixed speed, so it doesn't have a freewheel. So if the wheels are moving, your legs need to move. And that was the first thing I rode after my injury. And then eventually I got a recumbent trike, and then I progressed on to the adapted e-bike that I've got now. But yeah, the trikes at Centre Parks are great fun. And you can also ride them around corners on two wheels quite quickly once you get used to them. They kind of balance quite nicely. Partly because they're heavy. So this is our second game. So I think I'm going to give this, I've been playing this half an hour already. I'm going to give this another 15 minutes and get as far as I can, and then we'll move on to our third game, which is Halo. And the reason we're going to talk about Halo and play through the first level of Halo is because it was the first game I played with other people. It was the first social collaborative game I played. I used to have a friend, and he was the kind of one of the first, I don't know, proper friends I had, might be a good way of putting it. And we used to do a lot of mountain biking together. But when it was raining, or we didn't feel like doing even more mountain biking, we would go and we would play Halo, and playing through different levels of the kind of like the Halo game together in collaborative mode. And yeah, it was kind of like one of my first social gaming experiences. So that's why we'll play a bit of Halo in a bit.
Complete.
There we go, and now we get the Soviet Tech Center, and that will unlock the Mammoth Tank for us.
Building. Training. On hold. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir.
Pop those dudes down here just so I've got that flank covered.
Unit ready.
What else is on? My party's biggest worry is the hill. If all else fails, land train. The hills at centre parts can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. The trikes that they have 7 gears, and they're quite low geared in the first place. So we tended to find that if I was going to have a problem, it would actually be keeping up with other people, because I'd run out of gears. Riding up hills, they were pretty well geared for that. We quite like them. And with that, I should now have a mammoth tank available to me, just like that. Fab. So the next thing I'm going to do is build another one of those, so that we can build things even faster, and then we'll build some pens, and then we'll start building the ground attack amphibious attack vehicles, and then we will finish up either by running out of time at 1/4 for this bit of the stream anyway, or we'll go and do a behind the scenes attack and go get them on the beach. So let's go up. Let's go look at that enemy base while that's doing its thing. Yeah, so see this undefended beach? That's where we're going to attack them from. And I'm going to do some more money cheats in a moment. Oh. I am a sniffly today. I love the repetition of this game, from typing in codes to always having the same strategy to it always looking the same. The repetition and the familiarity, it was really good for me as I grew up. It also helped me, improve my hand coordination and stuff like that. I used to just find the repeatability very comforting. It could almost be a stim all of its own playing this game.
Low power.
So let's have some more power.
Building. Training. Unit ready.
Ah, my first mammoth tank. So the mammoth tanks are the really big ones. Good for, well, tanking things basically. Run around smashing things up. How are we doing on that? Why is that doing that? Whoosh. Adventures, so Isaac, Cities and Sounds there, talking about hanging out, playing COD at a friend's house after school. That sounds cool. I never really did that after school stuff for the most part. I didn't really have enough friends. I used to have some friends who would pop over and play games sometimes, but they're very... Friendships for me when I was a kid were quite tricky. Yeah, although I did have a few friends where I'd stay over at their houses overnight and we'd play Gran Turismo. A friend up the road was good. So Isaac's saying that repetition gets boring for him. I find that interesting. For me, I find repetition almost comforting. It can be its own sort of tunnel, its own sort of like flow state, and just kind of repeating things over and over. Like, I can get bored with some stuff, but I sort of swap between lots of things I repeat more than I do new things. And weirdly enough, I think it's one of the reasons why, since I kind of got all wobbly and haven't been able to go outside and do that sort of stuff as much, it's been a bit easier, because all the things, a lot of the things I do at home, and I do the same things over and over and over again. So it hasn't been, it's probably been easier for me to be housebound a lot than it would be for other people who are more active or go outside more. Even before my injury, I wasn't exactly going outside on my own very often. So I kind of didn't lose as much as other people would when my mobility suddenly changed. I'm at a little bit of an impasse on what to do for language, because after the chat with the doctor yesterday, technically speaking, I don't have a spinal cord injury. That's the kind of the discussion yesterday. The injury doesn't appear to be in the spinal cord. The kind of the things I'm experiencing with the spinal cord appear to be due to the muscle spasms, which are pushing the spinal cord, rather than the injury actually being inherent to the spinal cord itself, which is really good news. The injury appears to be further down my body in the tailbone, or around the tailbone area. That's really good, but it does make it very hard to explain to people. That it's kind of like a spinal cord injury, but technically it's not. But it kind of has all the same effects. Yeah, it's to the point where even the doctors got the diagnosis wrong for 2.5 years. because the trouble with Cauda equina syndrome is it's a syndrome. It's a description of what it looks like from the outside, a description of symptoms. It doesn't necessarily tell you what the cause is. So, yeah, so that's fun. So that's been a kind of part of why yesterday was a bit upsetting and weird.
Unit ready.
Mizzy saying that his parents were kind of encouraging him to do it more, but you didn't really have folks to invite over. That's kind of sad, but kind of a common trauma for autistic people, I'm afraid. You got people around now, though, Mizzy. You got us. We're here and we're happy to play games with you.
Ready.
And so to you. Me and Mizzy recently reconnected after not talking for probably about 10 years, maybe even 15 years. Because we used to chat together on, I think it was Wrong Planet, one of the autism forums, a very long time ago, which is neat. Isaac saying his syndrome is now obsolete, so I'm guessing that's a reference to Asperger's syndrome being kind of retired, sort of. Yeah, it kind of just got merged into the broader autism stuff. Really. It was largely a political difference anyway. Essentially, when I think it was the 1990s, there was a specific decision in government that they would start kind of encourage diagnosis of Asperger's, because it was it didn't get the same learning disabilities nursing as autism would, which is quite expensive, the learning disabilities nursing. So it was kind of a bit of a political fix. It kind of the whole kind of diagnostic model is very flawed. It's a lot of it represents more of the internal politics of the American health system and the power dynamics within that than it necessarily does about real. Well, they are real things. They're concrete concepts, but they're not necessarily as clear cut as that. And when I'm kind of talking to people who are getting diagnosed with things for the first time, I tend to kind of describe it a little bit like, you know, the old parable of people feeling different ends of an elephant. You know, they take their blindfolds off and go, "Oh, we're talking about the same elephant." But they go, "Oh, no, it's got ears. It's got really big ears. Well, this one's, you know, got a really long tail." If they never take the blindfolds off and they continue working in isolation, which is what happens a lot with things like, you know, the ADHD group of kind of researchers and the autism groups of researchers, they just sort of build political castles around those misconceptions, and you start getting into situations where, like, the head of the elephant, you know, the people who study the head of the elephant are like, yeah, if we put different foods in, then, you know, the elephant stomps in different ways, and you know, everyone knows that elephants should have 4 legs, but this elephant only has 2 legs, so we'll give it, you know, behavior modification therapy so that it can learn to walk on its ears properly, so it can use its ears and its legs to walk, because everyone knows that you should walk with 4 legs or whatever. And then at the other end of the elephant, they're like, sometimes the poo comes out green and we don't know why, but, you know, more research is needed in this area. You know, potentially both ends of it can agree that farts exist, but, you know, to one end of it, it's a muscle spasm, and the other end thinks farts are a smell. They don't really talk to each other or coordinate, because a lot of it is more about their own political power than it is about necessarily the truth of the situation. And then at the end of that parable, the thing that nobody's really paying attention to is that the elephant is stood on a big piece of concrete. That's where it lives. So that's probably causing more of the challenges, the environment the elephant's in, than whether the elephant's got, you know, elephant headism or elephant tailism. Yeah, that's kind of badly explaining an analogy that I used recently for something I made. And it's really about the elephant's experience that matters. You know, the elephant describing themselves from the inside out, rather than other folks describing the elephant from the outside in. And yeah, so it's one of the reasons why I encourage people to kind of think, like, it's important to have identity. Identity is really important. But at the same time, the definition of autism will forever be changing and evolving over time. So it will always be changing and evolving over time. And it's important that we kind of have a robust identity that can withstand those changes of definition. And that's part of where kind of neurodiversity come in. So I spoke to Judy, who I spoke to Judy a few years ago, Judy Singer, who's the lady who invented neurodiversity, and we were talking about the fact that the term sometimes is just used to talk about medical things, but the actual initial work of Judy's wasn't saying that this diagnosis, or this diagnosis is neurodiversity. She was pointing out that there's a power dynamic between a neurological majority and a neurological minority, and that power dynamic is really similar to the same power dynamics around sexuality and racism. And it's a similar sorts of barriers where there's some assumption within society that something is how it should be, and people get harmed when they're on the wrong side of that power dynamic. One of the reasons why that's important is because the words like autism and ADHD, they are the labels given by the people with power to describe people who don't have power. And they're useful, they are useful concepts, and they're powerful because they give the people who are given them some of the support of the medical system, which is a way of establishing power, reasonable adjustments, things like that. But ultimately, if you want a real civil rights movement, which is what the initial kind of thrust of neurodiversity was, is a civil rights lens. It's arguing that not just that people with condition X, Y or C should be respected or they shouldn't be seen as a problem. She was actually saying that the very idea that X, Y and Z are medical things is the problem. I hope that makes some sense to folks on the stream there. I'm kind of compressing a lot of neurodiversity theory stuff into a thing while I'm also trying to play a game. And by understanding that power dynamic between the neurological majority and neurological minorities, we can then find ways to improve lives of people by challenging the assumptions that go into it. I don't know if that's a good explanation of neurodiversity in a short way while I'm quite brain foggy and I'm also trying to play a game at the same time. For some reason one of the cheats I'm using won't work, so I'm running low on money. There you go, that time it worked.
Unit ready. Building. Training. Building.
So now I'm building things really quickly. Let's move out of that menu. Tanks rolling off the production lines. We're going to play this game for another 10 minutes or so. So let's build a second transport craft, load it up with tanks, and then go and attack the back of their base.
Building. Unit ready. Unable to comply. Building in progress.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Then I need 5 of my mammoth tanks.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir.
I kind of find it funny that 20 years later, maybe even more than 20 years at this point, I'm still playing exactly the same game and with exactly the same strategy as I did when I was a kid.
Acknowledged. Waiting order.
So load that up. So Isaac's saying that we're people too, and it's much better than it was in the past, but we are by no means perfect. The world is flawed in so many ways, but having a different setup neurologically sets us apart from the crowd. Yes, no, maybe. So the whole point of neurodiversity is neurodiversity includes everybody. That's kind of like the first thing. But neurodivergent and neurotypical are terms that came from the kind of US autism community, and they're useful because they draw a dividing line between a medical concept of kind of autistic, ADHD, etc., and everybody else. But neurodiversity is about everybody, the same way that racism is about everybody. Now the flip side of that is within that everybody there are clear minorities who experience harm because of assumptions from the medical model or the assumptions from society. So we call that the social model of disability, the idea that the mismatch between a person and their environment is what disables people. Many of those assumptions come from social assumptions because it's what the majority do, that don't necessarily make sense. So things like eye contact, they've got a social currency and a social expectation, but they're not inherently correct to have a certain way of doing eye contact.
Construction complete.
And so many parts of society work this way. You know, how people dress, how people wear, the type of underwear people like, or you know, the way that people want to approach different types of social situation. They're not inherently disordered or wrong. It's just that it's a minority expression, and like a lot of majority minority things, there's a big power dynamic. The medical model is kind of the pathologizing. That is saying, okay, so it's different and wrong, but there's a reason. We'll make it medicine. There's a really good analogy in kind of sexuality. So, you know, back in the 50s, you would be you go to your doctor to get diagnosed homosexual, where homosexuality or homosexual tendencies was a description of somebody's behaviour from the outside. That was a medical thing, and the medication meant that you didn't get arrested and put in prison for it. It meant that you got help and support from your doctor, which often amounted to chemical castration, like for Alan Turing. But the power of the medical model in that situation protected people. But it also limited people to only ever being protected by the medical model. It never made the jump to these are valid things as and of themselves. So sometimes when I chat to people about this, I explain that's the difference between being gay and homosexuality. Being gay or having a gay experience is me describing my experience of my attraction to others from the inside out. I'm describing my experience rather than somebody externally describing what they see me do. Nice try there, little landing craft, but I don't think you can get onto the land like that. So similar sort of things happen right now with neurodiversity. I describe myself as monotropic. I get these long attention tunnels, and those long flowy attention tunnels are how I describe it from the inside out. Now that same monotropic tendencies might be described from the outside in as autistic or ADHD, etc. But that's a little bit like how gay stuff was described as homosexuality. Now for the gay stuff, I think it was 2013 or 2003, one of the two, where homosexuality was actually dropped out of the DSM-V for the first time. It had been hanging around as a condition where you're uncomfortable with your homosexuality. That took a really long time. The doctors didn't give up the gatekeeping of sexuality because they went, oh, actually we're wrong, we shouldn't have done that. They gave it up because they became irrelevant. Nobody was going to go to their doctor to get diagnosed homosexual. People would come to the understanding that they are gay as part of their identity. So that process, I think, is going to repeat again for a lot of neurodiversity and autism stuff, where terms like monotropism and concepts like that, they will kind of hopefully build within culture, and then we'll get to the point where going and getting an autism diagnosis will feel as unneeded or as strange as going and getting a diagnosis of homosexuality. So that's kind of the history that's gone before us, and it's repeated itself many times over with things like sexuality and racism. There used to be a lot of racism within science, where there would be literal scientific studies that basically painted black people or Asian people as inferior. A lot of the Second World War assumptions about the Japanese were based on racism, basically. So that all used to be part of medicine as well once upon a time. So we make progress very slowly, but I think progress is being made in that direction, and we're just kind of living through the middle of that transition. So I hope that all makes some sense. I've almost won this already, amazingly. Just the mammoth tanks I'd already made. So I'm going to destroy all the defensive structures. So that is the things that can shoot back. And then I'm going to consider this game one. Woo! As at that point I have defeated all the things that can fight back. So I'm going to defeat you as well. And then it's just mopping up the rest of the structures, which I'm not going to do on stream because it takes a while and it's not worth it. We'll swap on to the next game. So I'm going to take out this. Building and take out the turret down there, and then I think I'm going to call it done, and we'll go fire up some Halo for a bit. Let me just have a quick look at the chat. So yeah, Mizzy saying the medical lens defaults to the assumption that something is wrong. Yeah, that's the whole point of the medical lens. It navigates people back to the concept of health. Now, for my tailbone injury, or my spinal cord injury, if it's one of those, it's a bit wibbly wobbly, it's not quite tightly defined. That's where I want a doctor to try and help me get back to the function I had before. Not because I am necessarily that, I'm quite limited by my body, my body's my impairments, my body's limitations. They don't necessarily disable me because of the adaptations we make to my environment. So we modify my environment to remove barriers, and by doing that, I thrive. The disability is the overlap between is the mismatch between my environment and my impairment. So as I remove those mismatches, barriers, they're the thing they are. The mismatches are called barriers. As I remove the barriers within my life, I then gain more ability to live my life how I want, and then start to thrive. Right. A little bit of neurodiversity and medical theory whilst disability theory whilst I do that. I think this unit here is the last unit of the enemy in the whole game. So I was going to finish at quarter past, but there's only one unit left, so I think we'll go blow it up. And whilst that is doing that, I will also, on my end, the audio will stop because I'm not focused on it. Okay. So in my end, I will also start firing up the next game as well. I hope that will make some sense for everybody. Part of the reason I do these streams is to talk about this stuff and how it impacts my life, things like that. So I hope they're useful concepts. They're very useful concepts for me. Mission accomplished. Right, that is a win. So the next stop is to go play Halo, basically. Woo! So let's swap to Halo. I'm just going to load the game loader. And I tested this earlier, so this should work. So all going well, when I click this button, we should have a nice smooth transition. Nope, no smooth transition. Come on, Master Chief Collection. Load up. The game hasn't loaded yet, so that's loading in the background. So to review where we've got to so far on kind of the story of games within my life, we started off with Colin McRae Rally, which was a game that I used to build my dexterity, my finger control, my ability to play games and do things with my hands. We're now moving on to one of the first social games I ever played. So I didn't own an Xbox, but a friend of mine did. And we used to play the campaign for Halo together. And we used to play collaboratively. When we used to do lots of mountain biking. That was the main thing that we bonded and got to become friends over. I met him because I was trying to buy one of his bikes off of him, and we took it for a test ride. And we were both at the time riding on our own, so riding with someone was good. And even though I was the weird kid at school that didn't really have very many friends, he saw past that and was happy to become my friend. And then that led to quite an amazing friendship over many years. When it was raining outside, or we'd got fed up of mountain biking, or quite often we've broken our bikes and we're waiting to buy some bits or waiting for a grown-up to come help us fix it, we'd end up playing Halo. And we played this entire original Halo game together, kind of sat on his bedroom on one of those tiny little 15-inch TV combined VHS players or DVD players. I think it was too early for DVD. So that's why this game has a lot of nostalgia for me. It was the first game I ever played socially with somebody else and as part of a friendship. Now, actually that's not entirely true. I had played some PlayStation games with friends, but they were not collaborative. They were, if we were playing Gran Turismo, we'd do a race each or something. We're not directly interacting. And some of those friendships are also quite brittle and convenient as well.
All I need to know is, did we lose them?
I think we both know.
Let's skip this pre-start. I've not actually played this game for a very long time, so this should be interesting. I'm going to turn on subtitles because I find it very hard to hear what they're saying. Accessibility menu, subtitles on. Subtitle settings. Okay, that looks good. Save settings. Resume. Still don't see any subtitles. There we go. There's some subtitles.
Chief, please look around the room. I need to get a calibration reading for your battlesuit's diagram.
Yeah, so Mizzy pointing out that monotropic flowy tunnels and seeing the value in it is very different to the medical language of, you know, restricted fixated interests. Actually, I have an example of that from one of my talks where I've got a report from when I was a kid that has something along the lines of Jamie has like a restricted literal interpretation of language, which limits his ability to communicate. That's kind of one frame of it, and then on the other side it's like, or Jamie is very specific with language, and that actually makes him really good at writing specifications and supporting, you know, W3C stuff and web standards work. And, you know, I did a whole bunch of work for the BBC on principles for accessibility and policy and stuff like that, because actually oh, you still have the scoreboard up for Command and Conquer. I've started playing the other game. There you go. Now can you see the game? Should be able to. I forgot to do the scene switch. Thanks for letting me know, Isaac. I've just been running around doing the initial thing where it gets you to do stuff, basically. So I'm moving around. It says left to move, which I'm doing. But for some reason it's not letting me continue. Thanks Isaac for reminding me that I forgot to do it. I am going to be ordering myself a Stream Deck in the next couple of weeks, so that so that I can do the scene changes without having to swap into the app. I need to go to a flashing light. Oh, okay, flashing lights. There they are. Oh, my nose is very full. I'll do another COVID test in a bit. Shouldn't be COVID. It just appeared to be a cold, but I'll go and double check. Vertical looking is now inverted. Oh, no, I don't want inverted looking.
Is that better, or should I switch it back?
Try it the other way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Try looking up and down again, please.
There you go.
You want me
That's
to
what
leave
we
it like
want.
that, or switch it again?
Leave it as it
I'll
is.
leave the picture
Fantastic.
normal, but if you want, you can change it yourself later.
Whee!
I'm ready for the energy shield test now.
Please follow me to the energy shield test station.
Okay.
Fire team, report to defensive positions Alpha and Sierra. Sensors show indirect.
I'm going to pause in a moment and blow my nose because I sound very nasally. I was about to say I should sound like I'm doing train announcements. No. My train now approaching Halo level 1 is the Jamie and Lion getting stuck playing shooter games at 15:24. Final destination bedtime. Oh. I was so busy making a joke I actually forgot what I was supposed to do.
Energy shields online, please.
Oh, I'm doing a thing. Hello.
All right. Shield
Oh.
read is fully charged.
Okay, sir. Bring them down to test the automatic recharge.
Don't know if I remember this in the original game, but cool. The beepy noise that tells me that the shields are broken. So yeah, so this is a game I played multiplayer, and I wasn't very good at it, but I was good enough to be useful, I guess.
Green across the board.
Bridge to Cryo 2, this is Captain Key. Send the Master Chief.
Mizzy-tastic saying this caused a lot of games to do the game settings as a part of the game area. Yeah, diegetic settings is what it's called. There's also sometimes known as progressive complexity and things like that. Progressive, progressive disclosure. So it's where you build things layer by layer, bit by bit. Okay, I should go shoot some things. Ah, right. I think I go up here, don't I? I've played this game a lot over the years. Do I not? So through here? There we go. Alright, let's go shoot some things. How do I crouch? Which was crouch? That one's crouch. Pressing down on that button. I've got a torch, I think. Destination bedtime. Now I can go on strike. I need to get bedtime It's important that I'm laying flat enough, and it's a big problem now actually, because I don't have any weapons whatsoever. It feels like I should have some weapons at some point. But I'm sure I had a weapon in this. I'm sure somebody gives me a pistol or something at some point, don't they? I'm sure I should have a gun by now. Chat room, am I supposed to have a gun by now?
The captain needs you on the bridge ASAP. Better follow me.
Who's saying that? Bridge. Oh, this might be where I get given a gun. The Pillar of Autumn is, I think, the name of this ship.
Oh yeah!
Uh-huh. Yes. There we go. Just looking at the chat room. But yeah, the special board in Fallout or children's books, that's good ways of doing it. There's lots of ways of introducing concepts. And they're good. It's a good way of doing it, diegetically. Diegetic music is music that comes from within the scene. So, for example, when Portal starts up and there's a radio playing and you can hear the radio playing, that is diegetic sound. It's also used in movies and stuff. Oh.
It must have been one of their boarding parties. I'd guess an antimatter charge.
Ma'am, fire control for the main cannon is offline.
What I didn't
Captain, the
do
cannon was my last offensive
was give myself some tissue in order to blow my nose. So whilst this cutscene is happening, I'm going to slightly wiggle my way out of my harness and grab some paper and blow my nose as far away from the microphone as I can. And then we will then pick up this game.
I appreciate your concern, Cortana, but it's not up to me. Protocol is clear. Destruction.
Incidentally, if you hear a loud clunking noise and then I go ow, 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 then you know, it just means I've fallen over. And I can get back up again if you give me 10 minutes. Oh, movement. Legs. Feet. There you go.
Where you
Right.
get Cortana
I'm
off
back.
this ship. Keep her safe from the enemy. If they capture her, they'll learn everything.
And I'm down.
Weapons research.
Hello, is that Ed? No. I am still streaming, Ed. I didn't know you were coming over this early today. Oh no, that's Wookie. Hello. Hello. Thank you. That is a friend of mine, Wookie, who's grabbing my keys to go and grab the air conditioning hose out of the
Are you ready?
storage locker for me. Oh, one moment, I just need to blow my nose.
Yank me.
Right, I'll put my ears back on.
Good luck, man.
So now I have audio again. Yeah, Wookie being very, very helpful in grabbing the hose for me.
Your architecture isn't much different
Oh.
from the Adams.
Right, strap myself back in. Oh.
Keep it loaded, son. You'll have to find out.
He's a person, but he doesn't keep it loaded. That seems unwise. Right, so let's go shoot some things. What I remember most about this pistol is that it is like it's overpowered for the for what it does, and you can kill these with like one shot to the head. If I remember correctly, it's got a zoom as well. I think this is the first time I've played a shooting game on stream. Oops! The first thing I did was shoot one of my own
Those Marines
people.
could use some help, Chief. Do what you do best.
It's not starting off at my best, is it? I normally play these games with quite a lot of accessibility settings, but this one is kind of in you know, basic mode. So I've set it easy, so hopefully I won't get killed too quickly. Oh. Oh yeah. Eat bullets, nasty alien person. Has anybody on the chat room played much Halo? I think this is like one of the this is the CE, you know, the kind of the remaster version. So yeah. Oop. Hang. I normally run my streams for 90 minutes to 2 hours, so we're probably into the last half an hour of the stream today. I think we'll run the first level and then go from there. So are there any questions from the chat room, or any topics you want to chat about or ask about? Lovely to chat to you too, Cities and Sounds. Thanks for coming along today. Oh, these are shield things or something, aren't they?
They're using our lifeboat airlocks to attach their boarding craft. We go out and they come in.
I don't know where I'm going. I basically go towards the shooting, like the gun noises. Is this where I crawl through tunnels with a torch? I don't know, can't remember. Oh, sorry to hear you're putting up with noisy banging noises there, Mad Techie. The people over the road from us have been having some building work done, which has been much the same, rather loud. I don't know where I'm going. Ah. How do I turn the torch on? See where the controls are. Oh, it's a lot of controls. Flashlight is start button. There we go. So I can shoot some things. You're in general life, don't run towards the shooting. That's probably good advice for me. I'm probably not very good in a shooting situation. Although sometimes there'll be the sorts of things where you do need to run towards danger. Having been involved in house fires and stuff, there's a lot of useful things that people can do in the first moments of things like a house fire, where you can meaningfully make an impact. Now, you shouldn't put yourself in unreasonable risk to do it, but a bit of quick thinking can really make a difference. So in one of the I've been in multiple house fires. No correlation with me being involved, I promise. I didn't start any of them. But one of the ones when I was in supported living was when a cooker caught fire, and the member of support staff who happened to be in the room at the time very calmly tackled the fire by just grabbing a fire blanket and sticking it over the top. Now technically her job at the time was to get everybody out of the room, but she saw it as if she could deal with the fire, she'd have one attempt to deal with the fire, and if she can't deal with that fire, then she would evacuate everyone. But it was much better for all involved, considering there were vulnerable people that would be difficult to evacuate, if she could bring the fire to an end immediately. So we were all very grateful for it at the time and thought that sounded very sensible, but the people in charge didn't think it was very sensible, and she almost lost her job because she hadn't followed the right protocol. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but yeah, in general I don't run towards bullets because I can't really do much about bullets. Like most people, I'm highly allergic to bullets. Like they really make me feel ill. I got rapid lead poisoning is very dangerous. But for other types of emergency, I am the sort of idiot who runs towards the emergency rather than away from it. When I was over in the US a few years ago, we saw a guy get hit by a car, hit by a big SUV, knocked off his bike, and me and the person that I was with went into just normal mode, put the guy in recovery position, check for injuries, just do the basic thing, call 911. And there was a great quote from the other person where so basically just a bunch of Americans standing around watching us doing it, not helping, and one of them was like, "Are you an EMT?" And the friend that I was with at the time went, "No, I'm British," and he just kind of blurted it out whilst sorting things out in a distracted way, and it just kind of made me giggle about kind of the difference in attitude. But generally speaking, we will try and help and intervene if we can. Maybe it was just, that was in Atlanta, so maybe it's just an Atlanta thing, I don't know. But I loved that retort of, no, I'm just, you know, are you an AMT? No, I'm British. Just snapped out at, like, as he was talking. It's really funny at the time. And I took lots of photos and stuff like that to try and collect the evidence
On
he
the landing
needed.
above us.
Oops. Oopsie. Shoot. Oh, that's where zoom is. I seem to remember that this game had a zoom mode, but I couldn't remember where. I'm pretty well coordinated today, so whilst my brain's a little bit foggy, my hands have been pretty okay. Once I'd learned them, I was pretty good at getting the cheat codes into the Command and Conquer game. Isaac saying the first thing you do at an accident is check for wallets and watches. Well, that's a thing. It's not really the way I approach things, but I'm also assuming that's a joke as well.
I know you're there. You got away.
Where am I going? Oh, hello. Oh, that poor monster. He suffered from a case of rapid lead poisoning. Just having a drink.
The life pods are launching. We should hurry. The Covenant are destroying the life pods. I really don't want us.
Notice that this is doing some
Warning,
tracking
blast
for
doors
me
closing.
when I'm aiming. It's doing some auto tracking and auto
Follow
targeting.
the nav point. It will lead you to an opening.
Okay. If I remember correctly, there's some bad guys just shooting these tunnels. This game is such a landmark game in so many ways.
I'm
Kind of like one of the
detecting
first real
Covenant movement
modern
outside the access
shooters
ways.
in the
Activating
modern
motion tracker.
sense.
Let's find a safe exit.
So now they've turned on my minimap, so they're introducing that concept.
We're too close. We need to find another route. Motion tracker shows all clear. Wait. We need to get through that door, but it's been damaged by an explosion. Analyzing. The door's control mechanism is offline, but it's taken a lot of damage. You should be able to bash it open with the butt of your weapon.
Ah, there you go. I remember now. Whoosh. I've had a few fires when cooking. I can confirm if you tell like the grown-ups, hey, I've had a small fire, but everything's okay. People do get a bit worried. You know, you can't really say I've had a small fire without people getting upset. But I was cooking some lamb once when I lived
looks like the Covenant wanted
in
to catch you
Harrow,
in that.
and it caught fire in the oven, and I pulled it out and threw it on the floor. And now I had fire inside and outside the oven, which wasn't really my plan. I think I chucked a tea towel over it is how I got it out, which was a bit alarming. But the lamb was very nice. It was very, very yummy when I kind of dealt with all of the more immediate housey fiery problems. The lamb was yummy. It was good lamb, but I probably shouldn't cook things that way again. That's probably a bad idea. Boo. I think in this situation, Mizzy, I think I'm technically the jump scare. Those poor aliens standing in the tunnels, they're just minding their own business, and then a Master Chief comes up behind them and shoots them in the head. Boo, boo, boo. Boo, boo, boo. 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 Boo.
The damage
Just
to
like
the
so.
structure is extensive. I don't know how much more abuse the Autumn can take.
Boo. 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 So Mizzy's wondering why it is that games like Dark Souls are really easy for him to get into, even though they're really difficult, but other games he just bounces off the difficulty. I'm not really sure. I think Yahtzee Crowshaw's got some great videos on Zero Punctuation about kind of like the structure of Dark Souls games. They are very well structured, so perhaps that might be it. There's the difference of like intentional difficulty versus kind of bouncing off of unintended barriers. Where if something has intentional difficulty, it probably has a difficulty curve that's been considered. But if you're just bouncing off of barriers that are due to the design or impairment or disability, etc., they tend to not have a curve. They're kind of random, and that reduces the ability to kind of acclimatise to them over time because they're not of a consistent kind of nature. Because one of the things I think about is that all games are kind of games are basically just a big collection of carefully tuned barriers. But what happens is when games are designed with bad assumptions, they then accidentally introduce barriers they didn't intend to,
Get aboard before it
and all
launches.
of that careful balancing goes out the window. Oh, I think I'm getting towards the end of this and getting toward the end of today's stream, which is good. I'm starting to get a little bit snoozy. There's no one there. I don't know where I'm going. Oh, that's where I'm going. There we go.
Now would be a very good time to leave.
Right, flying away now, escaping. And then when we land, I think I will finish up the stream for today. So to summarise kind of all the bits and bobs that we have gone through today. So I started off by playing Colin McRae, which is one of the first games I played. It's one of the first games that taught me how to play a driving game. And it also helped me develop my physical skills around my fingers, coordination, things like that, dexterity. Then we moved on and played some Command and Conquer Red Alert, which I used to like for its repeatability, and that used to give me a lot of comfort and a lot of good feelings. It's very nice, and I used to repeat it, and today we repeated all my old strategies on a certain map where we used cheats in order to make the barriers a little bit easier. We built the base, and then we drove lots of mammoth tanks into the back of the enemy's base. And then we moved on to Halo, which is one of the first social games I played that helped me develop my social skills. It's one of the first games I played collaboratively with somebody else in a campaign mode. And also at the time it was socially good for my skills and being able to talk to people in the playground and at school, because I could then talk about things that other people were talking about. So there you go, 3 different games, 3 different areas that they've helped me to have to build a life towards autistic thriving. So I'm going to swap across to the last part of my OBS thing. So let's step away from that and go on to my finish card. So basically, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's lovely to see you all. For folks who don't know me, my name is Jamie, and the large fluffy lion is Lion. And we are autistic, and I'm quite wobbly with it's like a spinal cord injury, but we found out yesterday it's not a spinal cord injury. It's to do with pinching of the spinal cord, but basically I'm wibbly wobbly, and we play different types of games, and we do accessibility, neurodiversity, and nerdy tech stuff. If you like listening to us talk, you can find us. You can find our podcasts on BBC Sounds called 1800 Seconds on Autism. Find out more about us as at Jamie Lyon and Spaced Out, and so you can find more about us at jamieandlion.com, and you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Smiles or at Jamie Knight. So with that, thank you very much to everyone who has joined us today. It's been lovely nattering to you and showing you some of these games from my childhood. And I hope that it's useful to see how these games can help build and support really great lives. So thank you to everyone, and we will catch you again in the future. I stream every week, Friday at 3 p.m. And I'm a variety streamer. I stream all sorts of different things. So it's very rarely the same thing twice. Catch you later.